let's learn about biostatistics, biostats, extremely high. So what is case control? Case control means cases divided by control. Cases have the disease, controls do not have the disease, do not have the disease. So let's say there is this box, right? This top part will always be disease, and then you have disease positive, disease negative, and left side would be test positive, test negative. What would be the case control? Case control would be diseases divided by control, left divided by right. So case control, cases divided by control. Cases have the disease, disease positive, and control is always disease negative. What is cohort study? Cohort study is calculating risk factor in one population divided by risk factor in another population. So relative risk, risk 1 versus risk 2. Cohort study is answer of a question when a question says there is a rare disease exposure, rare disease exposure, exposure prevalence. Exposure is changing the outcome of the, what is the design study to calculate or understand the exposure. When they are trying to evaluate exposure, answer is always cohort study, cohort study. And so let's say this is a box, disease positive, negative. This is test positive and negative. So what would be cohort study? This is A, B, C, D. Okay. Now cohort study would be top part divided by no exposure, right? A divided by A plus B divided by C divided by C plus D. This is relative risk. What is cross-sectional study? Cross-sectional. Cross-sectional means snapshot, means you have risk factor and outcome at the same time, same freaking time, risk factor and outcome at the same time. So same time. So risk factor is, what is risk factor? Like somebody having type 2 diabetes, right? Let's say this is a family portrait. Okay, this is a family portrait, family portrait. Okay, now here you have mom who is morbidly obese and BMI of more than 50, which is extremely high actually. And then you have father who is also morbidly obese, BMI more than 51, and then you have children with childhood obesity. And then all these people have type 2 diabetes. So you are seeing that they are morbidly obese, which is risk factor would be morbid obesity, and having type 2 diabetes at the same time. If question says one point, specifically one point in time, you are evaluating the outcome and the risk factor together, that is cross-sectional snapshot study. If a question says what happens if you lower the cutoff value, if you are lowering the test cutoff, what would happen? Increase in sensitivity. If sensitivity is increasing, there is decrease in specificity. Remember, sensitivity is rule out. Specificity is rule in. So lowering the cutoff value, if you are lowering the cutoff, you decrease sensitivity and increase specificity. Increasing sensitivity and decrease in specificity, lowering the cutoff value. Okay, so this is okay. Lowering the cutoff value, you increase the sensitivity and decrease the specificity. A very sensitive test, very sensitive test is used to rule out or exclude the disease when negative. Exclude the disease when negative. Exclude the disease when negative, when the sensitivity is very high. Sensitivity is very high. How high? In 90% and above. Question says the sensitivity is 90% and above, it would exclude the disease. If a question says specificity is 90% or above, let's say the specificity is 94%, 95%, that would be to rule in the disease. Okay, rule in the disease. These are the basics of high yield biostats. Thank you.